Yes, welcome.
Happy fourth day of Christmas. And we're going on, we're continuing. So this is usually my Monday live that I do each week at this time. And this time, I'm so happy to have my very first friend in Nashville. We go back a ways. Yeah,
Yeah.
the very first time I came to Nashville was to visit John and Becky Knowles, and I have John with us today. So we both have a lot to share.
Oh, yeah, we're gonna have to talk really fast to squeeze it into the time allotted, aren't we?
Yeah, holy smokes, a lot to talk about. But John, before we get going, I know we can just get going on some fun stuff, and I would love to hear a tune from you first before we start
Okay.
chattering. How about a love song? I know you
I think somebody said something about a love song, and
yes.
uh, sometimes when I think of a love song, I think of that song, the Gorilla song that Jay and I wrote.
Yeah,
But
I
I think
love
maybe
that.
today we want a mushy love song, not a family love song.
Either one, it's good.
Yeah.
I love that one too.
And so I'm thinking the nearness of you,
Oh yeah.
that's a good one. The nearness of you.
Oh yes. That's right. Well, you've committed yourself. You have to do the gorilla song later.
Okay. I actually thought ahead, and I do have my practice mute in my pocket, so I'm
Oh,
equipped.
okay. Right. Well,
Oh,
what did you do for Christmas? I have to tell people about our Christmas. It was, really extra
yeah.
special, but I want to hear about yours first.
We took all the things we normally did for Christmas and tried to figure out a way to do them at a distance or with the post office. My favorite one is we have some four burlap stockings that Becky made for the Christmas for the kids, the grandkids,
Uh,
and she went out and bought on Amazon 50, brown gift bags like you put a bottle of wine in,
oh, yeah.
and made those burlap wine bottle bags into stockings with their initials on it and mailed them to them. So they had their Christmas stockings there with them. So that kind of adapting, and then ultimately, of course, Zoom. Then we mail Christmas cookies back and forth and recipes. Uh, I think that this crazy time. I guess Becky and I realized that over the years we've adapted to a lot of stuff,
Hmm.
and we're pretty good adapters. But it's a bummer.
Hmm.
I'd much rather do Christmas in person and with hugs. I'll have to say. So
Yes. Well, I had an amazingly good Christmas, and I wouldn't expect that 2020 would have a good
yeah,
Christmas, and it's because well, I was thinking about all those people who like you can't be together with extended family, And there's some people who can't get together with regular family and don't have anyone to open presents with. I thought, well, since we always celebrate with my family on the 23rd, that leaves the 25th open. And so that's why I had that open Zoom present opening where everyone can open presents. And then instead of opening presents for me, I thought, well, it'd be better to open presents for, maybe the Nashville School of the Arts or W.O. Smith. And I started collecting instruments, and there was a huge response to that. And
Isn't that great?
I had a room full of presents. It took an entire day to wrap them. And I had some of the kids listening in, and it was fun for me and special, and to see their responses. And I have a list of people I wanted to thank for that. Donated some great instruments. So I wanted to thank Colleen Quincoyle and Jane Cruz and Christina, Tom Hankinson, who I think is here.
I see on the list.
Yes, Tony McReynolds donated some great stuff. GHS Strings and Mighty Bright and Shub Capo all donated equipment that's so useful for both schools. And then, so you would think that would be the best part of Christmas, right?
Well, I tell you, what you're saying is that any opportunity to kind of share our humanity with each other right now is stunningly wonderful, even if it's just a phone call sometimes, because most of all, we go through the day without that human connection that we all long for.
Right. And but there was one thing that was even more special than that.
Oh, wow.
I didn't think anything could top that. But after dinner, Brian and I stoked the fire in the fireplace here, and we sat and opened a few little gifts for each other. And the last of the gifts was this, a handmade gold necklace. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, man.
And it's the same design as I loved in silver, but this is my engagement necklace.
Whoa. Whoa.
So.
Merry Christmas.
Yeah, thank you.
Great, you guys.
So I wanted you to be one of the first to know. Yes.
Oh, man. Yes. So I played the love song right up front, didn't I?
That's right. So that was the reason for the love song. Brian is here. Come on. So thank you, Brian.
Yes, he gets to be in the camera, doesn't he?
Oh, lean in, because we're split screen.
Yes, there we go.
Well, I tell you.
How are you, John?
It's so good to hear that news. You guys are such a natural team, the way you work together. I'm not surprised that you can extend it the way you're extending it.
Yeah. Well,
it's easy to remember the date too, so.
Yeah, we haven't set an actual date for the ceremony yet. We're going to wait and see when family can actually be together for real.
I think that'll be critical.
Hopefully do it then, and you, of course, as well as close friends here in Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
But it was thanks to Phil Keggy that we met, actually. Brian and I met because he sent me a picture of Brian's famous work, The Lightning Catchers. So if you Google The Lightning Catchers, you can see it. And then I hired Brian to do our Nightlight Daylight CD.
Cost for everything.
Yes.
So you guys met through projects, huh?
Yes, and when we finished doing the last of the artwork for that, Brian was ready to go, and I didn't know if I would see him again, and so I actually wrote him a tune.
Oh, yeah. Somebody overdubbed the strings right there, didn't they?
Yeah. So
that's great. Yes, you got to sell the movie rights to all this. This is too much, So.
Yeah, it was just an incredible story. I mean, I'd written him a tune already before we actually met for real. Before, I mean, while we were still just corresponding by Skype. And we were seeing a whole bunch of notes coming in. So big wow from Tom, congratulations, and Robert. My student Kunyan Choi. This will be recorded, Brian. Yeah, good. And Ron and Rick, and I'll have to scroll down here. William,
yeah,
Stevie, Joy. Wow, so many. Buddy, Javier, yes, and
It's a good sign when you have so many
yeah.
friends you need to
Oh,
scroll.
oh yes. He said it sounds like there's some noise reduction. I'm going to go in and do. Let's see. Is that in my playing or John's? Let's see. I'm going to go into my audio and do.
There's a thing there that says
Automatically adjust volume.
I turn mine off.
Yeah, I'm turning mine off. Okay.
Oh, you sound better already.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. It should be off, and so, but
Yeah.
okay. Loud enough?
Yourself.
Volume's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Good.
That's
Thanks.
part of the thing. There's so many variables in all of this that we're lucky we made it on the air and in one piece. So.
Yeah. Okay. We've got a whole bunch more congrats coming in. All
That's right.
Eleanor. Yes. And Marlene and Reg. Okay. Well, I was thinking about that tune that I wrote for Brian, and I haven't played it for a really long time. This is what happens when we're not playing out live. We just
Boy, isn't that the truth? Yeah.
haven't played the stuff. So I went and I went into my own website and went to my sheet music page and downloaded the music and printed it out, and I can play it for you. I have it here on my music stand in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
So, but people know this Monday Live is it's not a concert. This is just a sharing time.
Yeah, a hangout.
So, yes. So this is the tune that I wrote for Brian, which I'm now reading and playing for you. But the last thing that we did in the album cover. So those of you who have Nightlight Daylight know there's two covers, and the one is the children who have they're like tiny children in a giant field, and they're flying on dandelion seeds. And so we went to photograph just the right dandelions for that cover, and then he was going to leave after that. So in the music, there's a part where I'm not sure if we're going to be together, and then there's one place where the note goes up instead of down, and that's the first time where there's a little bit of hope that maybe we can be together again, and maybe this will continue, which it has. So this is Dandelions.
That is scrumptious.
Thank you.
Well, I tell you, you and that guitar coming all the way across the Cumberland like this. Well, we're the things out of the Cumberland, aren't we? across the interstate, uh,
Yes.
and it all just sounds so good. It really just feels like you're here with me. I hope
Oh,
everybody else is having this nice experience that you and I are.
well, that's what we talked about at the beginning. That we always have such a great time hanging out together. That it's just an extra bonus if everyone else has a good time too.
That's right. Mira and I were talking. She knew Jethro Burns from up where you were living,
Yeah.
and then and I knew Chet, and Chet and Jethro talked about us and got us together. And so I drove up to Chicago and picked up Muriel and drove her to a workshop. It was in Milwaukee, wasn't it?
Milwaukee.
We
Yeah.
drove, And so we hung out for several days, and we each did our things for the workshop and so forth. And then shortly after that, I guess you visited Nashville. Am I remembering the right order of things?
Yeah, that's right.
So we really got to know each other without guitars in hand for the most part. We were driving along and talking and telling stories and catching up.
Yeah.
And we realized how much common background we had. And then the other thing I think we agreed on was how Chet, we all know him as a great guitar player, but he was a great introducer of somebody to somebody else.
Oh, that's right. He did
We're not
that.
the only ones that have this story of Chet getting us together.
Yes. And he was a real people person. He cared about people as people.
Yeah.
And he had friends that ranged from former presidents to the guy that sold T-shirts out of the back of his car.
Yes.
Yeah, and he treated them the same.
That's right.
And really, asked about. I'd see him, and he'd asked about my roommate Jonita. He and Jonita were good friends, and Jonita was your secretary.
That's right.
Yes,
That's right.
that's
And now we see each other all on Facebook. As much as I get mad at Facebook, it's got me in touch with people that I'd be out of touch with otherwise, and that's a gift and a half. You mentioned Chet and how down to earth he was. One of my favorite stories was he took me to lunch, and he said, "Well, when's your next lesson you have to teach?" And I said, "Well, not till 3 o'clock." He said, "Come on, let's go to the hardware store." So we went to the hardware store, and he bought a box of light bulbs, and went to one of his rental properties on Music Row. It was one of the publishing companies, I think, and they had some light bulbs out. He got up on a ladder and changed the light bulbs. So he's changing the light bulbs, and I'm holding the ladder. And he looks around at me and he says, "Now, don't let this ladder go." He said, "If you drop me, there'll be a lot of explaining to do because I'm a legend," which he would almost never say. But to think of that kind of down to earth hardware store,
oh yeah,
light bulb moment.
right. And one time I stopped over at Chet's office, and he said, "You want to come with me? I'm going to change some doorknobs for some of my properties." So he would never hire somebody to go do that.
Right.
And he said, "I'm going to go change some doorknobs." And so we went over. He and Ray Stevens owned some property, so he stopped at Ray Stevens' place, and then I helped him, unscrew the doorknobs and change them, and somebody waved at him as we were driving by, and he says, I don't know her. She must think she knows me."
Yeah. Well, the other time we were said that our get together today is not a concert, and one of the things I noticed hanging around Chet is he didn't really always sound like Chet Atkins when he played around the office,
Yeah.
or when the red light came on.
Hmm.
Man, he was Chet Atkins. He really was a studio player, I think, first and foremost. Later on, he got to where he was more comfortable out on the road and on stage and so forth. But just hanging around the office, he would try anything. And I remember seeing songwriters come in and play songs, and he would say, "Show me that lick you used in the intro," stealing from everybody all the time, That songwriter, I don't know if he got his song cut, but he had a great story, Oh, man.
And there's just as many stories of Chet when he was hanging around with Lenny Breau.
Oh, man.
That was quite an episode there, and how much they learned from each other, and how much
Yes.
they brought to music to them.
One of the things I realized when I watched Chet is he would learn almost exactly what Lenny was doing and then use 5% of it somewhere in a tune. So he always stayed looking like Chet, but there were all these little embellishments. And then I watched him hang around all of us. He had Jerry Reed-isms, he had Lenny Breau-isms, he had Tom Brest-isms, all these things that came from one place and another. I remember he taught me how to play Happy Again so I could take it to France for some of the French players over there, one of Marcel's events. And Bresch learned it from me. And then later on, Bresch played it for Chet. And he said, show me how you're doing that. So, because he had changed it up a little bit. So it's funny, Bresch and I left, and here was one of his greatest pieces. He just gave it to us to pass around and see what happened.
He taught it to me, note for note too, in the office. So that's the one that goes. Do you want to play that one, John?
I don't know if I remember that. What I remember coming up was an intro. I thought he starts it off like he's already happy.
Oh, yeah.
Unhappy when he wrote that tune. In the doctor's office, and he was worried about getting a good cancer report, Oh, so what I did is I took the bridge, if I remember this. And then Happy Again.
That's right. Yeah.
I do that a lot. And Mac, I think that was as Chet's health really began to fail. And I would swing by to visit with him. One of my strongest memories is him saying to me, he said, play Happy Again. I like the way you do that. I like the way you do that. And you realize, oh, man. And what I'd done is I'd learned what he showed me and, done some things with it. And, which I learned how to do from hanging out with him. He used to tease me at first how I always played everything exactly like I'd worked it out, like a classical player would, Mm-hmm. And he told me one time, he said, I don't think I could do that. I said, I'd be too worried I would make a mistake. Plus, he says, what happens if you have a good idea? And I thought, oh. A good idea is like it's an intrusion instead of a gift.
Oh, but that's what happens. Sometimes on stage, I know what he means, because sometimes I'm playing along and say, oh, I wonder what would happen if I did this. And I'm like on stage and I go for it. I say, no, I guess that didn't work. I should have put my finger one fret, over there. So, and sometimes it works, but it's a fearless approach to things, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It is.
Well, as a matter of fact, sometimes, you're talking about composing pieces. Very often I've got like a half a piece composed and I'll play the half I've got and let it go. Yes, to that point, and just give it like you would a horse, just let it run and see what you get. And every now and then, about the fourth or fifth try, you come up with something that really fits like the next logical extension of the piece, and there have been other times when I think really very theoretically, I'll name the scales and the chords and all that, but I don't, as a rule, I don't do that to myself. I know how to say those things so I can talk to other musicians, but I don't say to myself, I think I'll play a G7 with a flat 9 here,
Right.
I hear a sound in my head and my fingers know, where that sound is.
Well, I think one of those tunes that I play a little bit differently every time. Maybe we'll each do a tune or something, and then I know I'd like to continue the conversation about learning and what we're doing. So this is one I wrote called "Hometown." So I might change it today a little. We'll see.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's one I plan to teach on my True Fire channel. I'm going to work that out and teach it. It's already, the music's published on my website, but for the students on the True Fire, I might make that one free. I think I've been making some of the tunes free. For Christmas, I've got some of the Christmas tunes that are free. And I should mention that everything is linked. Both of John's projects are linked, which we'll talk about. And my True Fire channel is linked on that murielanderson.com/now. So I've got that on there.
I've just had my True Fire channel live, I guess, mid-December. I was planning on traveling this summer, and instead I ended up learning how to shoot video and do all that kind of stuff. We do what we do, and I love the idea, what you're saying there, that on the True Fire channel, it's not just teaching the tunes, but you get a chance to say, here's how I did this, and here's how I practiced this, and if you have trouble here, you might try this. It's for something that we're kind of recording in advance. It's pretty interactive, and then people can leave notes and say, would you tell me more about how you came up with that? And when I love that chance. Muriel knows this about me. When I left my gig at Texas Instruments, I really set up to be a guitar teacher, because I'd been having people tell me to do that. And I was like 28. I had no idea of like becoming a player, because I thought I was already too old to be a child prodigy, And so I started getting better, mostly so I could be a better teacher. And the better I got at teaching, my playing came along. And before long, I was living a rather balanced life. And then the pandemic comes along, and I'm getting much better as a teacher. And my playing is going, because there's nobody to play for.
Yeah.
And I've talked to several players that have said this same thing, that their chops are getting mushy. And I think what it is when we practice, we can practice. But when we play for people, we kind of set technique aside and kind of just try to deliver something, and it's a different way of playing. Playing around the house is not the same thing.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've really felt it myself. I mean, the only time that I felt like I kind of got my chops back a little bit is when I had to play with Tommy Emmanuel.
That'll do it.
I did that for my Saturday after Thanksgiving concert, and that's still posted. And if you jump on the YouTube channel, we posted the claw that we played together. So for that, I just had to woodshed for a while so that I would feel like I could be in the same room with him. It's just to be able to stand up on my feet at all.
The other thing about Tommy, though, you're right about, he kind of scared you into bringing your A game, except he also brings the most support of anybody I've ever played with.
Absolutely.
He is by far the duet partner of our generation.
Chet was the same way too. Chet was very supportive as a player.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Although I remember I was still getting nervous around Chet. I told Tommy one time, I said, I get more nervous around Chet than I do around you. And he said, that's because we're brothers. He's our daddy. And there it was. I think Tommy was never like my vinyl hero the way Chet was, so.
Well, it's funny. I get more nervous playing around Tommy than I did around Chet.
And I think that's got to be different for different people. There were 2 or 3 times. I remember the first time I played something for Chet, I was recording some solos, and I went to the 7th fret and got the 8th one. That's always funny. And Chet came on the talkback, and he was just laughing. And I said, "What?" And he said, "Somebody else's mistakes. They're always funny." And after that, you just can't mess up. It's and he was so good. I think part of it, that was the producer in him setting other people at ease, because he was a little on the Abe Lincoln side in terms of his presence. He could be. A lot of people were pretty spooked by him all the time, but I felt very comfortable around him from the get-go. And I don't know. I think he set me at ease, and that's what you're saying too.
Absolutely, so. Yeah, it was like playing for my uncle. I just felt such support coming from him that I could play. I remember that I was at a festival in France once, and they wouldn't tell me the schedule. When I played at this festival, so I had no idea of the schedule. And then come the first banquet, we're all getting ready to play, and they said, "Muriel, come up and play." So that was it. That was my announcement. I had to find my guitar. And I was sitting here, and Chet Atkins was sitting right there in front of me, first table, and I just looked at him, and I felt such support. I sat there and I played my best.
Yeah.
And it was I just felt so supported by him. So I just played for him, and
Let everybody else eavesdrop.
yes, like the way we're playing for each other today.
That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, well, I do remember one time Chet saying that when he first recorded Lenny, he was trying to get Lenny to relax a little bit, so he just went and sat down on the chair across from Lenny, kind of like we look like we're on screen here, you know. And Lenny got real nervous, and Chet said, "Is it okay if I sit here and listen?" And Lenny says, "Well, man, like, you know, it's like an experience." Okay, I'll go back in the control room.
Oh, well, before we start telling Lenny jokes, can you play one tune for us?
Sure. Yeah. I'm just thinking of Lenny. One of the
Yes.
things he taught me to do was to play quarter note triplets with his ring finger. At the same time, he would play regular quarter notes accompaniment with his thumb and two fingers. So if you're doing thumb and two fingers like this, and the first tune he showed me was really, I'm in the mood. And when you do I'm in the, that's three song notes on top
Yeah.
of the accompaniment notes. So you have to learn to play a triplet like that. So being like a classical guy, I thought I'll write an etude that has quarter note triplets over regular quarter note accompaniment. And being a national songwriter guy, I stole a line from myself. Was about a year after Lenny died, and I was just missing him. And so I wrote a tune called, and the lyric was, lately I've been feeling lonely, lately I've been feeling blue, lately I've been feeling lonely, lately I've been missing you. And so I don't sing that lyric, but that's where the triplets are. So if you hear the tune is like this now.
Oh, beautiful. You know, I was just thinking it's been since the beginning of the pandemic. Well, I mean, before that, I have not written great music for a long time. I mean, we've been doing video so much. I've been doing all this video stuff. I learned how to video edit, and we do all this social media like we're doing today.
Yeah.
And somehow that time that it takes to just be with the music, be with the muse,
Yes.
and create something great.
Yeah. That's what it is you speak to the song and the song speaks back to you.
Yes.
And if you're not prepared to take some time and listen, you won't hear what the song is saying, you know.
Exactly. And I can tell you did it with that. That one's you're talking to the muse with that.
Yeah.
And I did when I wrote my tune Arioso, or even, you know, Dandelions had some heartfelt
Right.
spirit
Exactly.
in it.
You know, I hope everybody does that. I think that sometimes I talk to players and they think, well, John and Muriel, they can make stuff up, they can compose. And I feel like what I'm doing is something almost anybody could do.
Yeah, same here.
I'm taking the time, I'm putting a little something out there, you know, savoring it, listen to see what else might go with it. It's not that different than the way you prepare a meal or the way you arrange furniture in your house, or you try it here, you try it there. You return to it. You decide what satisfies you, what might satisfy someone else. And mostly, I just feel like I'm curious, and I love music, and that's what I feel like my gift is, if there's anything. So.
Yeah. Well, John, I just had an idea. I
Hmm.
don't know what you think about this. How about if I sign up on your True Fire channel for private lessons once a week?
Oh, okay.
And you can do the same. and then I will have somebody I need to respond to at least one time a week. Because people say, "Oh, I can't. I'm not disciplined. I'm not like these performers." Well, I'm not really disciplined either. It's just that I have something I need to do by a certain time, and look, we don't have that now, and so.
Oh, I know.
So it's not happening. So maybe if I signed up for lessons on your True Fire channel,
We cut out the middleman and do what are we on here? StreamYard, yeah.
yeah,
Everybody else watch. Private.
right.
You
No,
know,
it might be fun to do it on the True Fire, and then we could kind of share our lessons with each other.
when you were learning some classical stuff, I remember like Pepe Romero showing a bunch of us things like. Did you do those?
Oh yeah,
And then I've made up things that I guess are like that, where you walk across the fingerboard and try to make each finger do its own job. And matter of fact, Chet had one he showed me, which I've made a video for my channel. Was something that he watched Homer play rhythm and warm up, and the chords he would play. First one would be a C with I'm out of camera range here. I can't tell.
oh here
I'll body it.
put you a little further in.
There we go. Yeah. Okay. So I'm C, E, B, D. And the next chord he would play would be a C6, which means there's no guide fingers. Every finger has to jump up and go somewhere. And the next chord would be C major 7. And then he would go up a fret. And so he would, Homer would do chunk, 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 play those chords and just kind of try and drive his fingers crazy. And it's a really interesting exercise, because when you let go of each chord, you're kind of trusting and relying on thin air to get you to the next one. So your hands just have to have a kind of the ghost of knowing where they are. It's not like hanging on to one finger and moving, to the next chord. And then what Chet would do is he would play. Make up a little pattern, and do that way. And so when I start doing those things, I go. You wander off the reservation just a little bit, and you can't help but almost. Matter of fact, that's something I do. If I play scales somewhere along the way, I get distracted and think this scale could be a part of a melody, and there I go.
Yeah.
And I've always allowed myself that luxury just to see where my imagination or curiosity, I think, would take me. But I like the idea of you and I kind of egging each other on. Let's once we're off camera, let's work that out.
Yes, I think that's the way to do it. Let's see. There's a couple more things I wanted to mention before I forget. This is something that I just figured out. I got together with Pamela and thought we wanted to do something special for the 2-month pass members, and so we're going to do a special on New Year's Day. So if you're a 2-month pass member, let me know what time New Year's Day works. Usually Brian and I go to Kebmo's New Year's Day party, but with the pandemic that's not happening this year, so I have that time to spend with you. So here once again, we'll extend that to you, and if there's somebody who especially wants to drop in on us, just let me know. Just send me a note, and so that'll be a New Year's Day, just a sharing on Zoom. And then I already mentioned there's some new stuff up on YouTube, and there's also a new YouTube channel called Acoustic Sailing. It's like Acoustic Chef, except that Brian is now putting together the videos of our adventure going up to Maine.
Oh man.
And he's got the second episode up already, so that's also linked on my regular link page, the /now, the now page of my website. So check that out. That's all free. And two of my friends are doing live streams right after this. Stanley Jordan is doing a live stream, and Tierra Negra did one German time, and it's now available for the next 3 days. So I've got links to both of those down on a little bit further on that same page. So those, all those are linked in the same place. So,
And I'll tell you, if people would like to send me an email to john@johnknowles.com, I'll send you a link for a 7-day free trial so you can sample the fingerstyle buffet, which is my channel on TrueFire.
And sounds delicious.
So.
Yeah.
Oh man, great! We should wish everybody a Happy New Year. We can get ahead of the game a little bit, couldn't we?
Yes, Happy New Year. John, do you have one more tune in you? And we've got a whole lot of people who are popping in and saying hello. And my cousin Jane, I see, says hello and congrats and all. And Marty loves those triplets that you're doing. Great, a little bit of Django in there.
Yeah. And that tune is in one of my TrueFire courses. I forget which one. Lately is the name of the tune. Yeah.
Yeah. Stevie and Mando Banjo also say hi. Stevie wants to know if you can tell us a bit about your guitars.
Yes. Yeah. Kirk Sand made this guitar for me. And when I really started playing the classic guitar, I decided my $200 Gibson was not going to cut it, But I was teaching in a guitar store, and I owned a Ramirez and a Kono and 2 or 3 other nice instruments. And Kirk looked at my Kono and worked on it a lot. And so what he did was he measured a lot of things about my Kono and added a cutaway and a pickup and made the neck a little bit less meaty than a classical, but it's still classical width. So my technique is still, if I'm around people who are not real classical players, they look at me and think I'm a classical player. But if a classical player looks at me and play, they say, I don't know about that, John, So I'm out there in the middle somewhere, but my technique is really influenced by listening to Chet and playing with a thumb pick, and then later not with a thumb pick. And so, and actually in the beginning, I had no dots. I added those when I started doing the TrueFire stuff, because when somebody's looking at the neck, it looks like 315 frets here to there. And so I had Kirk put me, these are kind of the old Gretsch thumbnail fret markers for me. And the guitar is probably about 12 years old now. And at the moment, the pickup I have in it is made by Rich Barbera. And I've got a very small Hendrickson Bud amplifier, just barely on, just to kind of give me a little support, as we're doing our Zoom meeting or whatever this is, And if I turn that all the way off, let me see. Well, I'm gonna grab the wrong. Okay, there it is. Now the amp is off, and that's the guitar. What I really like about it is it's like a good classical. It has and I also wanted good sustain. I had that on the Kono, and I also wanted the voices to carry across. On my Ramirez, I remember there was all kind of sweet spots, and it was great if you were in a sweet spot. If you were away from a sweet spot, not so much, So this one, hopefully, the sweet spot is spread out over the whole instrument.
John, can you play a sweet tune then?
Oh,
yes. That sweet spot all over.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll play you one. This is one Bill Pyburn gave me inspiration for. In one of his magazines that he had, he asked me to write 6 articles about how I would write 6 tunes. And I thought, oh, that's cool. And then I thought about how big the assignment was. So I changed the assignment to I would write 6 short pieces, and I would pretend that public radio had hired me to play music in between the stories. That's short pieces, And then I stole things I heard on the radio to write the tunes. And one of the things I heard was, if this had been a real emergency, you would have been instructed, that long thing.
Oh, yeah.
And I almost wrote a tune called A Real Emergency. I thought that would be fun. But instead I wrote a tune called If This Had Been Real, which sounded to me more like an almost love story. So, I'm going to put the amp back on a little bit. Let's see if I can do this.
Oh, yes. Sweet tune.
The other thing we talked about how you get ideas for things. Once I had that phrase, emotionally, I put myself in a love story like you would hear, in a Broadway show, and you get 2/3 of the way through, and there's some kind of a conflict, and you don't know if the love story is going to work or not.
Mm-hmm.
That's where Send in the Clown sits in a
Yeah,
show
right.
like that.
That's fun.
And so I kind of imagined, if this had been real, there must have been moonlight. There would have been this, and there would have been that if this had been real.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's screaming lyrics there. Oh, speaking of which, last night I couldn't sleep, and so I decided to write lyrics for my tune Arioso, which is
Oh yeah.
yeah. And I always thought that that's one that couldn't have lyrics to it because it doesn't have any verse or chorus. It just keeps moving. It's a classical style
Yeah.
piece,
Right.
really.
Yeah.
But I wrote it about unconditional love. So if I said, if I were music being, if I were unconditional love expressed in music, what would I sound like? And so that's what I came up with. And so this is going to be one of these Monday night things, so we'll see if I can do it. But now that I'm thinking the lyrics as I'm doing it, and they're not quite together yet, but it's kind of the first
Draft. I love it.
First
Yes.
draft. I'll play the instrumental. I may end up keeping it instrumental, but now that I have the lyrics in my mind, it makes me kind of interpret it in a little bit different way, just think about it in a little bit different way. So this is Arioso. And I'll do a little the original version of it. So I'm going to try to on the fly do an edit back into the original version, where normally I do the part that goes into the minor, which was written later. So I'll see how we do when we get to that part.
man.
Well, we're doing this special Monday dedicated to love for my engagement broadcast, I guess.
You know, when you mentioned it not being structured like a song, it isn't. It moves, on its own path, but it breathes like a song.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of those things I remember hearing Chet say, is that you should, when you play tunes that have words inside your head, you should be singing the song.
Yeah.
And two, three things happen. One is you breathe, and the other one that happens is you play with phrasing that helps the listener know where you are in the song, because a lot of times you're playing a song that they know already. But if there's something about what you're doing right there, the breathing and the as yet unheard lyric is there. So
Right. Yeah, maybe sometime later I'll do it with the lyrics. So, and I have a feeling that that there is some music in the future, some great music to come out in the future. So
yeah,
I think we haven't done it all yet. I think between us and everyone else, I think that we.
Hey, since we're doing premieres, I'll do a short one.
Yes,
Another one.
yes, yeah.
Bill Piper's guitar magazine went out of business before I wrote all 6 songs. And Dick Ward, upstate New York guy, gave me an idea for something about along the radio way, was be the 9th caller. You know how they would give away tickets to a ball game or a show. And so I had written down the 9th caller. And to me, it wasn't about a contest. It was like the 9th caller was ominous, like, don't be there when he calls, that kind of thing, And so I thought, so what's the 9th? And for a while, I was thinking 9th chords. And then I thought of Jerry's tune, The Claw, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Oh.
So I took that rhythm and made more ominous moves. I made it minor. The 9th caller.
Oh. Great. Well, we should be letting people go, because for one thing, we've got a couple
some other shows to see,
coming up. Yep. And so after this, just go on that site that should be linked there, murielanderson.com/now. You can check out John Knowles' Fingerstyle Quarterly. Now, I know some of you already have lots of issues of that, and also John's new True Fire channel, my True Fire channel, and then there's a couple of broadcasts coming up.
All right. Thanks a bunch for thinking of this, Muriel.
Oh, thanks, John. It's been delightful hanging out with you.
It's been really fun, I'll tell you.
And now that you're my teacher again, we'll do this more.
Congratulations on your gold necklace.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That's lovely. Okay. Bye, everyone.